If you've ever heard about the five element theory and how it might work for animals, you may have really wondered what in the world this system is all about. Let's dive into the basics so you can know your way around this five element system and see how it influences the animals in your life. It'll give you incredible insight into health, behavior, learning style, relationship style, and so much more. And make sure you stick around until the end because I have great free resources that will help you take this to the next step. So let's dive in because we have all sorts of great profiles and personalities that you need to meet. When we're talking about the five elements, we have these five different personalities, if you will, that really help us to understand the different elements and how they influence the animals. So before I go into all sorts of details about how this theory works and get too technical, I just want to introduce you to these five elemental profiles or types. Now, the first one in the series is the wood element. And this animal is just a really dynamic, powerful, full opinioned sort of animal. So we call this animal the Dynamo. They are a dynamic and feisty character. They have a strong nature. And they're also often a really natural leader. So you may see as they interact with other animals that they're either number one or maybe struggling to see if they can become number one. But they're also really clear and present and really like you to be clear and present with them as well. Now, the good aspects of these animals, and there are many, is kind of they're a force of nature. They're active, they love adventure. And if you want an animal that you want to maybe have a horse that you can do competition with, or a dog that you want to take long, vigorous hikes with, this is your type. Now, these animals will express themselves outwardly quite a bit. So if they have an opinion, you are going to know about it. Now, they also have certain health issues that they can deal with. So if these are in the animals that you know, you might be dealing with a wood type, including issues within connective tissue like the tendons or ligaments, overall kind of muscular body tension, issues with the eyes or the sight, as well as conditions that show up in an animal's claws or hooves. Hooves are a really big deal for these wood horses. We also may see issues within allergies, detoxification, that kind of thing, as well as some will show some issues within the reproductive hormonal balance. But there is something you can do. There's always something you can do to keep these animals happy and healthy. But one of the top on the list is just keep them moving. These are animals who don't like to be confined and really just want to be able to go and go. So that gives you an idea about one of our profiles. And it gives you a sense of how it affects not only their behavior, but also their health. Our next elemental type or profile is the fire animal, who we call the shining star. And these animals really are a bit of a showman. Very dramatic and full of energy and life and joy. They love to connect to you, and you're going to really enjoy the close relationships that they seek out. They love attention, and they just love kind of hanging out and doing things together. Now, the wonderful thing about that is you can create a really joyful and playful relationship, but they have their challenges too, as you can imagine. They may be a bit anxious or flighty. If they're frightened, they're going to tend to want to flee instead of freeze. And they are also emotionally sensitive, which can be wonderful in some ways, but in some ways can be sometimes a little bit more challenging. Now, they, like the wood type, will display their stress outward, but it's not so much in an aggressive, assertive way as just a kind of a help me drama kind of a way. These animals can also have health issues. This is the same for all of the types. So you may see them having issues with the circulatory system, heat intolerance, again, that emotional sensitivity and anxiety, as well as digestive or metabolic issues, especially if they're associated with that emotional state. So all of these might be seen in our fire or shining star. The things that you can do to keep this animal happy and healthy is just stay grounded and present to kind of give them that settling sense of things, and also to really just connect with them. And they love to connect back. Our next elemental type is the good as gold, and they are associated with the earth element. Now, other than the past two who are really high energy and a bit more extroverted, this animal is a little bit more in the center. They are grounded and stable and steady and reliable, and they're just an all-around good guy or gal. They are a natural family member. So these animals, because they're pretty easygoing, are terrific to have as the family dog or the family cat, or maybe the first pony that your child learns to ride on, because they are comfort motivated. They're just kind of easygoing and really just kind of let the world around them be the way it is, as long as it lets them kind of have an easygoing life too. Because again, they are just really kind of a steady one. Now, the challenge is these animals, if they're pushed really hard and fast, which isn't really their speed, they can kind of resist by being stubborn or just kind of mountain-like, like not going any further. So these animals, because they learn a little bit slower, they tend to move a little bit slower. If you're asking them to be a fire or wood type instead of letting them be the earthy wonderfulness that they are, they can eventually start to show you, I'm not so happy with that. And they'll just become like really stubborn and refusing. But the physical body can show some signs as well. So these are animals that do tend to be a little bit overweight, although they can also be underweight. The tendency is more for overweight, and they often have issues within the digestive system, everything from the teeth to the kind of metabolic rates, as well as diarrhea, constipation, you name the digestive issue. It's something to kind of pay attention to if you have this kind of earth animal. They may also have issues in with fungal issues, like horses with thrush, or they might even have growths, like dogs who have big lipoma, or gray horses with the melanoma, and we can even have that lead to tumors. So just pay attention to that, of course. The big thing about these animals is just love them for who they are. Their slower, gentler pace makes them a wonderful companion. After our big extroverts with the wood and the fire, and our more kind of in the center guy with that earth element, good as gold, we come to the perfect performer, who is our metal animal. And this animal is the first on the cycle here, who is much more introverted. They are quieter, more reserved. They can even be aloof, and they are just kind of more an internal kind of animal who likes kind of really quiet interactions with a special few. Now, these animals have many, many things that you are going to love about them, but one of them is they are a really hard worker. So if you want to really do things with your horse or your dog, these are animals who are all in. They want to be a part of the action and really have something to do. But they do it in a quiet, methodical, and precise way that is fantastic for certain things like dressage or maybe being a police dog. So just understand that they have a lot to give there. But the challenges for these animals is that when they're upset or they're not kind of doing as well, the way that they show it is pretty much turned internally. So you may not notice it if you don't look for subtle cues. These are animals who will instead start to show external signs like skin problems, respiratory problems, digestive problems like constipation or issues in the large intestine. And if they have these things that are starting to come up, especially again with the immune or the skin or the respiratory systems, you know that something's off and you need to take a deeper look to see how you can serve this animal because their subtle cues are asking for help. Now, one of the big things about these animals is they need quiet time and decompression time after they've been out in the world and maybe a more social environment or a noisier environment. So just pay attention to that and make sure you honor them for all of the hard work that they share with you. Well, our first 4 elemental types are fairly straightforward as we're describing them. This last one is something a little special. So if you have an animal in your life that is kind of an outlier, something special, something different, you're probably looking at least partially the water element type. The water element type we call the wise mystic because they are a little bit different. No one single pattern really matches for this animal except to expect the unexpected. They can really have a complicated history in the way that they came to you or a complicated history in things that they have been through. They may even have had a history of trauma, which has actually activated that water element even more. Now, what's beneficial about these animals is they can offer you a profound sense of connection and understanding. They can even be these animals that kind of in some ways change your life. It's a powerful story, usually when we hear the stories about our water animals. But the challenges are definitely part of this story as well. Your vet or your trainer or some other healthcare worker that is helping you with this animal may have told you they don't know what's going on with this animal because their symptoms are a little bit odd or bizarre. Their health problems may be things that your vet doesn't quite know what to do with. Your trainer may say, I'm trying the methods I've always used and I don't know what to do with this animal because it's just not working. They often ask for alternative solutions, new solutions, creative solutions, and create an incredible experience of learning and opportunity. But also along the way, you may really have some stumbling blocks in places where you just didn't know quite what to do and you had to kind of surrender to this unusual experience. Now, these animals can really have any kind of health issue, but we often will see a particular focus on issues in the bones and the joints, autoimmune conditions, lower back pain or, problems in the lower back, and any animal that's lucky enough to live into old age. Aging issues are also associated with our water type. Now, with this type, as you would kind of imagine, the key is just surrendering to what's in front of you because you never know what to expect. The best advice is just to expect the unexpected and roll with it, flow with it. This is the water element. Understand these animals are very sensitive, often deeply intuitive, and they really have something to teach you and show you. So enter into that lesson and that adventure and see where it takes you. So now that we've gone through our 5 element cycle and you can kind of see what these 5 different temperaments are all about, I just want to leave you with one last kind of nugget of information because although this is a very kind of quick and kind of just skimming the surface introduction to the 5 elements, this one point is really important for you to understand, and that is that all animals, every single one, has all 5 of these elements that are happening inside of them. So I don't want you to think that if you have a wood horse or an earth dog, that's the only thing that's happening with them. Our animals are individuals. They're more complex and nuanced than that. So while we can learn a lot from an animal's primary or most influential elemental influence, please understand that all of those elements are kind of playing and networking and interfacing in your animal's body and behavior and their very spirit. And that will help you to understand that there is incredible individuality in every animal's pattern because it's made up of these differing concentrations of these elemental patterns. Now, like I said, this is just an introduction to the amazing world of the 5 elements, and I would love to share more with you. We have some free resources that you can dive into right now, and it'll take you to that next step. For example, we have a free 5-element quiz, and you can go through it in 3 to 5 minutes and have a sense of which one of the 5 types most closely aligns with the animals in your life. You can also look at our 5-element relationship PDF, which shows you all about how your 5-element pattern interfaces with the 5-element patterns of the animals in your life. And we have so much more. So make sure you check out all of the links in the description because it'll give you how you get to all of these free resources. I have loved sharing that first look, but tell me in the comments below, what kind of element really spoke to you about your animal? Because I bet you saw some behaviors or some body issues that you're dealing with in your life right now. And I'd love to know which one spoke the loudest to you.